Welcome to the Sisterhood Collective podcast, where we empower women to break barriers, overcome limiting beliefs, and achieve true success. I'm your host, Laurie Drummond, entrepreneur and founder of 5 successful businesses. Join me as I share proven strategies, interview inspirational leaders, and provide behind-the-scenes insights to help you level up in your business, career, and in life. Because together, we can get further faster. Okay, let's dive in. So in today's podcast, I wanted to take a bit of a deep dive into the reality of personal growth. I truly believe that it doesn't always look glamorous, as it's portrayed on the social media. When we talk about, our growth, whether that's in business or whether that's just for ourselves as well, we need to start celebrating the fact that it is messy. It's imperfect, but it's our authentic journey. And it leads to real, lasting success and happiness. So today I'm going to have a bit of a chat with Teegan and tell you a little bit about what personal growth and business growth has looked like for us so far up till this point. And I can tell you it most certainly isn't linear, but there's a lot of lessons learned. So we'll share a few of those with you today. So Teegan, it's been on our minds lately is talking about the growth journey, whether that's personal development growth, whether that's you operating and helping drive business growth. And as we've been talking about, it's different for everybody, and it's not always a pretty journey the way that the influencers and very successful people paint, right? I mean, we already know when we look on social media, people are primarily sharing the good in their life, the prettiness in their life, the wow factor. They're not showing the late nights, the sacrifices, the hard work, the ups and downs, the crying, the missed engagements that you've had, and all those sorts of things. And I thought this would be a really good topic to share some of our experiences, because you and I both know and have shared, a lot of our growth journey together the last 4 or 5 years as well. But it's most certainly isn't linear. And interestingly too, I feel like sometimes you even have to take a step backwards before you can even launch and keep moving forward, because I guess you can get lost in your own world and your own space. So we need to stop, reflect, take a bird's eye view back into our life and to the destination or goal that we're trying to achieve, and then reset, which, as I said, sometimes means taking a few steps backwards. Have you got any, challenges or setbacks or even unglamorous moments, I suppose, that you've identified that didn't go quite as you had planned or hoped, but then it's led to, significant personal growth?
Yeah, there's been lots of points. And I love how you said that growth isn't linear, because I always reflect that, especially like in the gym community. Like people come and they're like, oh, this is what I want my weight loss journey to look like. And this is what I want this to look like. And I'm like, it's never going to be 100% positive, this smooth coasting line. It is always going to be like a zigzagging, winding, crazy road. And it is full of setbacks sometimes, and disappointments and hard lessons learned. And I think it's not the more you grow, but the more you focus on growing. The biggest challenge I find is that I find personal growth quite easy. Like if I want to study something, I have a very clear, oh, that's what I want to learn, that's what I want to chase after. It's quite tangible. But what I often forget is that I have a team that sometimes isn't ready to grow with me. I might have a husband who maybe he's thinking, oh, that's not the growth that I wanted. Like I forget there's other people in my journey as I go along. And especially even being a mum, like I know how many mums are like, oh, I want to go and do this and go and do that. And we sometimes forget, and we're like, oh, hang on a minute, there's another community and another aspect of our life that we have to consider. So consideration for me is a big one with growth, that sometimes I have to rein it in a little bit.
It's interesting that you say that. So how do you do that? Like you've got the good ideas fairy and you've got all these ideas. You're like, oh, that's the journey or that's the pathway I want to take, whether it's personal or business. What do you do to try and get your team or other parties on the same pathway?
It's something I'm still learning continually. And because everyone is so diverse, so the way you would, get your family on board versus team members different, they have different views and perspectives of how they perceive your concepts. So you describe and explain things to them differently. but it's really hard. I think communication is the biggest key. Like, you've just got to be so open and kind of honest that that's the way you want it to go, and you kind of hope for the best. You don't want to tell them that it might not go to plan. And I try to ask for feedback as well. Like, I'm like, oh, I really think this is a great idea. What do you guys think? Can you contribute? Can you give me an outside opinion? And that's where a mentor comes in, or someone that you can bounce off to give you some real clear, okay, let's get to the nitty gritty, and what would be best outcome, what would be, worst case scenario, and kind of dig in a little deeper. But yeah, I think communicating and having the support of your team, a mentor, a group of peers that have been through it or understand the struggles of making big decisions, and yeah, supporting you or guiding you.
That's great, and it sounds fabulous. It just doesn't always work that way, right? It's like it can lead to arguments, miscommunication, can lead to staff not wanting to be a part of the journey anymore, and it can actually get quite messy. I guess it's fear because, we care what people think of us as a person, as a leader, a mother, a businesswoman, whatever it is that you're identifying with in that particular circumstance. But why don't we embrace the messy? Put all this pressure to be perfect, but I feel like it's okay to mess something up and not handle something the right way, and then go back to that staff member with your little tail between your legs and just go, look, you know what? I didn't handle that well, and I'm sorry about that, because I should be better. But, this is me just trying to learn and grow and be the best person that I can for you. And, I'm still working on that. I feel like we really need to start embracing this messy, but I guess the other part to that is sharing it so that it is normalized. But I feel like we do need to embrace this messy journey that we're all on, and just say that, that it's okay. And it's funny because I've talked to a few people over the last few days, and I've said to them, you might have an outcome in mind on what you envisage life to be, but you've got this idea of what that looks like. But sometimes like, even when I say to you, you're like, oh, I wanted to do this. I'm like, but Teegan, you are doing that. That's exactly what you're doing. But it just doesn't look like the way you thought it would look. You're still doing it. It's just been painted in a different way. It's a slightly different narrative, but still has the same outcome and the same, I guess, it's a situation that you wanted. It just doesn't look the way you had painted it.
Yeah. And it is hard because sometimes, like you said, it doesn't look like the way, maybe you see someone else do it and you're like, oh, I want mine to look like that. And then when it doesn't, you're like, oh, I failed at that. But you didn't. You made it just in a different way, and you kind of put your own stamp on it, and you've still learnt and gained all the skills along the way. So even if the end result wasn't, a massive success, you've still grown. You've learnt good lessons and maybe some hard lessons. So yeah, it is still all growth, even though, yeah, it's not how we always imagine it to be.
People say to me, sometimes, oh, geez, Loz, you're so lucky that you've done, or you've got all of this, you've got all these businesses, or you've gone on all these holidays, or you seem to travel the world and never sit still, or you seem to have freedom, which is what I was told yesterday. And now you're chasing even more freedom. I'm like, yeah, of course, I'm always trying to evolve. Again, that comes at a sacrifice of sorts. And it depends at the looking glass that you're peering through, whether you see that as a sacrifice. I think sometimes it is, but it's okay. But the other thing we've got to get better at, I guess, is saying no, setting boundaries so that you can grow.
And saying yes to some things, yeah, because some things are really scary. And like, I know I've just taken on a new role, and it's meant I've lost some of my freedom of time, but it's given me financial gain. And it's also going to give me massive, massive growth potential for the future. So I know that the sacrifice of my time is going to be greatly rewarded by other aspects. So it's the same thing with growth. I'm like, oh, am I taking a step back by sacrificing one aspect? But then I'm like, hang on a minute, what am I gaining from this in the long run? So I think different growth for short term and long term, it's like goals. You look at different lenses. It is hard though.
You know what? It's funny because we obviously at the Sisterhood, we operate in this space of, positive mindset and, mindset matters. And we're always looking at affirmations and trying to motivate and inspire others, including ourselves, in this journey. And even at my cafe, at my coffee shop, we write little quotes on the lid. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're, like affirmations, sometimes they're motivating, they're all these things. But one of the quotes that I write on the coffee lids is, say yes to opportunity. And so it can be actually quite confusing, because here we are saying, let's get better at saying no. But then on the other hand, we're like, you need to get uncomfortable to grow. If you're comfortable, you're not growing, I suppose, in that sense. So you do have to say yes to opportunity, even if it seems it's something you're fearful of, or, it makes your palms sweat and things like that as well. But so it actually can be quite confusing when you see those two contrasting statements. Do we say yes or do we say no?
It's like weighing it up, isn't it? It's like, what are the pros of this and what are the cons? And when it comes to saying no, a lot of the time I feel like that's the smaller things. Like, it's the boundaries of like, oh, do you want to come and do this, or do you want to come and do that? And you're kind of like, hang on a minute, is this what is this giving me back in return? Is it giving me solid social connection, or is it giving me some value? Like, what's it bringing to my life? And, if it's all no's, then you're kind of like, oh, hang on a minute, that time or that energy can be better spent doing something else.
Yeah, that's two questions I ask all the time. And depending what circumstance I'm in, I don't sit there in a social setting or a personal setting and go, hang on, does this align with my goals? Then no, the answer is no. But I do ask those questions sometimes is, one, does it align with my goals? So that is generally to do with business. If it doesn't align with where I'm trying to take the business, then it's no for right now. It's not no forever, but it's no right now. And then the other one I also ask, does this particular situation or opportunity, does it actually serve me? Am I going to get something out of this? Or am I doing this because I feel obliged to? Anyway, so they're the two questions that I ask, I think, to get clarity as to whether I say yes or no. I also feel like sometimes we get so comfortable, because I'm guilty of this. I get so comfortable. I seem to do the same things over and over. We get into a bit of a routine, which I have, admitted previously. I've decided that I think I like routine. That's how I work well. But at the same time, it can get boring, and then I want more. And in fact, you said the same thing yourself today, earlier when we were talking, that it was a few years ago, you became really successful in the business. It was in a really, really good place. And one of the questions in, when we're mentoring is saying to you, okay, well, what's your new goals? And you're like, Loz, I don't really have any right now. And I said, well, that's actually okay. Why can't you just sit here and reap the benefits of this amazing work that you've been doing for this last 12 months? You finally hit this massive milestone, massive personal goals, and you've got some freedom. Now it's time to just stop and enjoy that. But that wasn't necessarily super fun for you either, right? This was the messy part. When you've hit this amazing goal, you're making money, that, you hit the financial aspect of giving you freedom to choose to go on holidays and, buy extra things and a new house and all those sorts of things. You actually got freedom of time because you had built some amazing systems and automated and optimized them within your business. But you also then created this staff and trained them to operate the business even if you were away. And obviously you and the hubby had a really good relationship, and it was like, cool, let's get some holidays on the books and do some things for us and reconnect. But what happened?
I got really, really bored really, really quickly. And it was funny because like Lauren was like, oh, that's my dream. I can't wait to get to that place where I'm just comfortable to just be. And I was like, be careful what you wish for. I got really bored. I stopped all personal growth. Like, my brain kind of went a bit to mush. Like, I didn't have to think hard about things. I didn't have to make any difficult decisions. It was just easy, like too easy. And then once I'm bored, I started micromanaging. I started breaking things in the business. So I had something to fix. I was an annoying wife because I had nothing to do with myself. I got really bored. And for me, it's just not good for me to have too much mental capacity and time on my hands because I just didn't know what to do with it. I started wasting money on courses, which were things that I already knew, but I felt like, oh, I must do something with my time. I just didn't have that clear purpose of like, okay, this is what you're getting out of bed for in the morning. This is what you're going to get done today. And it's time to get a little bit, not a little bit scared, but a little bit uncomfortable. You need something to be working towards or pushing towards.
So for someone that was on top of her mountain at this point, didn't take long, and it's to do with your personality and because you're a driven person as well. But then suddenly you got completely lost And then you start trying all these things, breaking things in the business, annoying the staff, annoying the husband, buying stuff. I remember you were trying to get yourself into a routine of fitness and personal self-care, and you were like trying yoga and you were trying this and you were doing that. How long was that period? Because this is where we say growth can be messy, right? Because you got there and then you broke it all, not all of it. You tried really hard to smash it all down, but you actually then had to take a step back and go on. I think we reset goals again. Well, hang on a second. Let's find your purpose and your why so that you could create new goals and start to grow again. But how long was that period?
I reckon 6 months. Yeah.
And you were still doing fun things I kind of want to highlight here, because you were still going on holidays, if I recall, those mad like trips down to Perth. And I don't know if you went overseas or anything then as well, but you did some great trips away.
Yeah. And it was after COVID. So I think we'd felt like we'd all been locked up, and then we were allowed out and about again, and we'd all just sort of let a bit loose. And it was fun for a minute. And then I was like, oh no, I need to work harder again. So it became a financial thing. We decided to invest in another property. We had to get things that we were like, right, we need to hustle now because we need to make another payment. Like, that was the best kick up the bum for me. Yeah, it was a sense of urgency. There needed to be something that we needed to work towards. We needed to make that financial goal.
You know, for me, I like to get my businesses to a point where I've got the freedom. I guess it's freedom of choice, meaning I don't actually have to physically be in the workspace. And that's always been one of my massive goals. But of course, I've stuffed it up a million times. I guess earlier on, I always thought that by not being in the business, for me, I would just kind of let go of everything. I stopped managing it, and I stopped being that leadership, and I stopped creating vision and direction and focus for the staff and for the organization. And every time I do that, the business would start to fail again, of course, right? Because there was no leadership there. Generally, it's because I was overseas and off gallivanting and traveling. So then when I would come back, I would have to reestablish and redevelop relationships with the team. And then I would have to set goals for the business, or, you know, work out where is this organization actually going, you know, and then obviously I have to lead the way a little bit as well. So for taking all this time out and not maintaining the communication, which doesn't have to be on a daily basis, but it needs to be there and it needs to be consistent. But I did all this damage by going away, and I'd come back and it'd take me months to reestablish this all over again. And so I'd take another couple of steps back before I could leap forward again.
And I think that's just such a cycle. Like, the more you speak to other small business owners, that is the most common struggle. Like, we get what we work for so hard, and then it's like we've got it, so we're kind of like, it's fine, and then all of a sudden it's fine until it's not fine, and then you're back in repairing and patching and trying to strive again. And economically, everything changes as well, so you do need to be like on the pulse, probably more than what we think we do. You know, another competitor might open, or there's a financial crisis, or something happens, and we've got to evolve and adapt with it. So yeah, I think small business is never without its trials and tribulations. Yeah. And when you're dealing with team members as well, you just don't know. They have personal lives that get in the way, and you know, they might want to grow as well, so they might outgrow you, or, you know, or vice versa.
Well, my takeaway for being in that terrible cycle, which was for a good 8 years or so, I mean, I believe I've learnt along the way every time. Now I can clearly say that if for the type of small businesses that I've certainly been involved in, that you can never just step completely away from the business and have it run in the direction as successful as you want to. So I've learned now that, you know, I need to have constant communication and meetings. No matter where I am in the world, those meetings still happen. Even if they're not an hour, 2 hours, they're 15 minutes, they're check-ins, but the staff know that you're still there and that you care about what they're doing. Yeah. So anyway, if we go forward a little bit, I think one of the things with regards to personal growth, and I think this is a really big one, and it's something, I think, Teegan, you know, this is something that's really on my mind all the time at the moment. And I think it's because of the phase of life that I'm in right now. And it's letting go of things that no longer serve you. And I'm literally questioning myself on this particular topic. I really believe it's almost on a daily basis at the moment. Just trying to, I guess, maybe reestablish the life that I want and who's a part of that. And, you know, when we talk about staff and team teams in your business who will say, oh, you know, I often say, oh, well, Teegan, that person might have got you from A to B, but it doesn't mean they're the right person to help you get from B to C, right? And I say that all the time. But I believe that's in your personal life as well. The friends that you had in, you know, at school and things like that is not necessarily the friends that you currently have now. You know, being ex-army for myself and traveling a lot and living in different countries and states, every time I go to a new location, I make new friends, which is hard sometimes, but you make these new friends, and your old friends are still there, but you're not talking to them on a daily basis. It's the new friends, the ones that are in the location that you're in, that you're talking to a lot more. Here's a question, because I mean, I've definitely felt this. As you have evolved and changed I guess in the last 5 years from when you had the business and you moved to the new location. Let's go that far back, right? That's when you got this exponential growth through business, and even personally for you, I've just watched you, you know, grow and evolve and get so confident and clear on direction and focus and stuff. Anywho, out of the friends that you had and that circle that have been around you, what have you seen change as you've evolved as a person?
I'm definitely more picky, like you said, about who I'm spending time with. I'm really selective about that because, yeah, I want to know that they're supporting me, they've got my best interests. I'm also able and willing to support them, and they align with, you know, my vision or values of being, we're good for community and we're doing good things. They're people that I'll naturally gravitate towards. And usually they're people either that have got the same struggles as me. And it's funny, I feel like we talk to other small business owners or solopreneurs where they don't have teams, they are their team. And they're like, oh, I'm just such a hermit. You know, I don't want to socialize with anyone. And I'm like, here, sister, like we're all so similar. We all complain we have no friends, but we actually like selectively choose that life for ourselves. We self-isolate almost by choice. And I guess it depends on what most of the careers that most of us are in, we're client facing. So we have clients that we're managing daily, which can be exhausting. So I understand that friendship circles often dwindle because of this. You don't have the social capacity to hold conversation and you know, I don't want to say meaningless chit chat, but general chit chat. You kind of just, you want to hunker down and just conserve the most energy that you have because there's not much left at the end of the week. So yeah, I definitely see a common pattern with women. Like we want to be social, but it's just so tiring and we don't make enough effort for it.
Well, I think that's the big thing there, is that your relationships do change, because I mean, I've certainly seen as I have opened up different businesses or I've slightly changed, you know, paths, I've got those friends that have they're there with me the whole way through. They're like my biggest supporters. They're like, oh my God, I love what you're doing. And they're just supporting you. And then I've got the friends that they're no longer interested in what you're doing, probably because you're so excited about it. It's all you talk about and it's what you're putting on your social media and all those sorts of things. And they're like, all right, I've had enough of that. So they kind of take a step back from you. I think with personal growth and success, like also you pick up new habits, but some of your older friends don't necessarily want to do those new habits that you have. They don't want to get up at crazy o'clock in the morning, and they don't want to maybe go and do this new yoga retreat thing that you want to do with you because that's you. It's not them. It's not what they do. But I definitely have noticed my friendship circles change as to who are my in the inner circle, I suppose, and who I speak to on a daily or weekly basis, who are part of my life for right now. Like I said, it doesn't mean they're not still there if I need them and vice versa, but it does change. But there is also the people that don't support you through jealousy. And I find that is a huge one that I have definitely experienced myself, where people stop following you or they make kind of like passive aggressive comments, or they just stop wanting to hang out with you and they're not, you know, they can almost ghost you, I suppose, and you just take those steps back, but you recognize it. Has that happened to you, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's a really tough one. And like you said, it's, yeah, being, you know, you put yourself out there on social media or in your business and you constantly like, I don't care so much anymore. But at the beginning, it's like, oh my God, I don't want to get judged. And, oh, what do these people think of me? And But I think just surrounding yourself with people that are aligned with you and that share those daily habits, they share the same values. It's seeking out communities that do support you, and then you have that common thread, like that they're having the same struggles, they're feeling exactly the same. They're the ones that, like you said, will be in that inner circle and will understand. And the ones that just aren't interested, don't care, or drift off, they're the ones that you kind of need to just let go and not attach too much to it. But I mean, it still hurts and it's still personal because you take it so personally. But I think just finding that new tribe as you grow, there's going to be new people that are going to start riding on that journey with you. And I think that's finding it so important. And that's the sisterhood. That's our main goal, is to find people who are just like us and bring it to the forefront that we are all feeling the same and we do need each other.
Can you imagine how much like emotion though that we are, I guess, giving to these toxic kind of situations? Like if I think about that, like that's exhausting. So the moment you can let go of that and go, you know what, I'm going to remove myself from this situation or from this friendship group for a while. Now, if I go back, oh my God, let's go back more than 10 years ago. Oh, long time ago. I had a friend who was extremely draining and she was getting into situations that were very toxic, bad for her, also bad for me because I was the savior having to come in all the time. And it suddenly got to a point where I was like, I don't think I can be friends with her right now. Like it's not the space I want to be in. And it's absolutely draining me. Like all my spare time is coming to help this young lass out. So I literally cut her away. And that sounds terrible, but I took a moment where I decided I'm no longer going to do social things with her. And I did. And I cut it away for about 3 or 4 years, of which then we reconnected. And then we found that we had new things in common again, because obviously she had evolved and so had I. And then we came back and crossed paths again, and now we're friends again. But I've done that before where I've cut people away. And, you know, I feel like it's important to step away sometime and get rid of that emotional drain that you are giving to a situation that literally doesn't serve you.
And it stunts your growth. You know what I mean? Like it stunts your own capacity. You can't see the daylight sometimes because of people's clouds and shadows. So you're just kind of like, oh, this is taking so much capacity and it's taking you away from the good that you could be doing, or seeing that brighter path. It's that perspective of some people's mentality.
And I think also with regards to just growth, and, you know, when we say the path isn't always linear, it can literally go left, right, up, down, round in circles, I think it's important to highlight here that it is okay to stop and just live in the moment and enjoy the right now. Even though you did and you had a good experience for a little while, you just probably left it that little bit too long for you. But again, that was you evolving, right? That's you going, I can't sit here for too long. I'm an ambitious person. I'm driven. So I do need new purpose and new goals to set. But that's something you found out. But I think it's okay to live for the moment sometimes and start saying yes to things to enjoy yourself right now, and saying no to work and those goals or chasing success all the time. Like I think it's important to sit back and recognize when it's okay to do that.
Yeah. And it helps prevent burnout. Like if you're constantly on the go, constantly chasing something or striving for perfection, which you're never going to catch anyway, but it's absolutely exhausting. And you're right, you do need time to stop and appreciate where you've come. And you need to know, like you said, I left it a little bit too long, but it was still nice to know, okay, that's my limit. And it's okay. It wasn't diabolical that I sat there and did nothing for a while. Everything was just fine. It wasn't the end of the world. And so it was still a part of growth. I still learned that that's not what I'm going to be. I'm not going to sit in the same job doing the same thing for the rest of my life. So it's not a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing. We've got to find joy in the journey. And I think if you can plan out times when it's time to put your head down and say no to things so that you can focus on where you're traveling. But at the same time, if you're not enjoying the journey, what's the point?
Exactly. And it's hard. Growth is hard, and everyone grows at a different speed. And as much as sometimes I want to be like, come on, like you can do it, like find the joy in it. Like it's all about growth, get out there, do a course, you stimulate your brain again. Some people that's just not right now. Like right now is just, it's time to just stop, regroup, and and worry about that later, because it's easy to keep pushing and trying to persuade people to grow when they're not ready to grow.
Yes, you're right, Teegan. And you know what? Thanks so much for joining me on today's podcast and chatting to me about this. I really wanted to bring this to our listeners because I believe other people will feel the same. You know, growth is a continuous and evolving process, and we do all grow at different spaces at different times in our life, and our journey is most certainly always going to be different depending where we are at, you know, this particular moment and based on what our goals and purpose is for right now. So I really appreciate you guys listening to us today. If you have enjoyed the podcast, I'd appreciate if you would subscribe. That would be fabulous. And just realize that, you know, we're here at the Sisterhood to share with you the highs and the lows and everything in between. So thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for joining us on the Sisterhood Collective podcast. Remember to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. And if you want to be the first to hear what is new at Sisterhood Collective, you can find out more on our Instagram, or you can sign up to receive our weekly newsletter and let the good times continue to roll. Now it's time to turn your clear vision into bold action. I'm Laurie Drummond, your host, and until next time, keep striving to live that best life. Take care, and we'll see you soon.